What's up, everybody? It's Dakota, and today I'm going to be going over a sweet modern deck that kind of really isn't, I would say, tier 1, but definitely has a combo that can essentially just win you the game because there's not a lot of decks in the format right now that can deal with someone gaining infinite life, and I think probably the best deck for the Heliod combo. Heliod Company is a green white splash black for some sideboard cards. Combo deck that relies on playing Heliod, if I can find him. He's a pretty hard guy to find. Heliod the Sun Crowned, which says whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature or enchantment you control, and you can pay one and a white to give another creature lifelink. And you're looking to have Heliod on the battlefield with either Spike Feeder to remove a counter from it to gain 2 life, to then put a counter on Spike Feeder. So he goes back up to 2 +1/+1 counters. You remove another one, you gain 2 life. You repeat the process till you have a million, billion, cajillion life. And then you can also have Walking Ballista with 2 counters. Give it lifelink because of Heliod. Hit your opponent for 1, you gain 1 life. Put a counter on Walking Ballista. Shoot your opponent, rinse and repeat till they're dead. So this deck has a built-in way to win the mirror match by obviously giving Walking Ballista lifelink with at least 2 counters on it. Or it just beats a lot of the decks in the format with Spike Feeder plus Heliod combo to just gain infinite life and basically make your opponent figure it out, essentially. And then also try to beat your infinite combo once you actually get it. Also going through here, you have Devoted Druid plus Zero Remedies, makes infinite green mana, which can be useful when obviously just making a giant Walking Ballista or playing Finale of Devastation, going and getting some creature, whatever it is, and then making your team really huge and your creatures gaining haste until end of turn, which is really good because usually if you can put 3 or 4 like 15 million haste creatures on the battlefield, the only deck you're probably not really beating is the Titan decks with a ton of zombies and things like that. But in that case, you can always just get Birds of Paradise, tutor that up with Finale Devastation, X equaling a billion, and getting a birds and hitting your opponent that way to beat some of their things that are gumming up the ground. Once Upon a Time helps fixes draws. If you have a light land hand, this can find a land. If you're missing Heliod or another combo piece, or if you're just missing a mana dork, Once Upon a Time lets you dig 5 cards deep towards it, which is usually pretty good. And then, of course, it wouldn't be called Heliod Company if you didn't play Collected Company. You can find any number of these creatures, obviously Walking Ballista being the worst one, but you do have an Eternal Witness to pick it back up if you decide to company into it plus Eternal Witness, combo and on board, things like that. There's certain situations where you'd want to do that, but realistically, there's better collected company piles that you could get. Also, can get you into Heliod plus Spike Feeder combo. Can get Ranger of Eos and Heliod to then tutor up the Walking Ballista to then ping your opponent to death and just go infinite that way. The mana base: 1 Forest, a Godless Shrine, Horizon Canopies or redraws, Marsh Flats, and Verdant, Windswept Heath, all fetch lands. These get your basic forests and things like that, and basically all of your dual lands that you want to be playing, since you are a base green, kind of splashing the black for like Viscera and things like that. Nurturing Peatland is another land that you can use to draw later in the game if you're running out of cards and you just really need like one more piece on the sideboard. Burning Forge Tender, you kind of get wrecked by like Anger of the Gods and things like that, so Forge Tender can actually prevent the damage from an Anger of the Gods. Caustic Caterpillar is a creature that you can find with Collected Company and Once Upon a Time to disrupt the opponent's artifact and enchantment hate. If they're playing like a a Tormod's Crypt, you can force them to blow it up early, or if they have like a Leyline of the Void, things like that. This kind of answers it, and it's tutorable with Ranger, Captain of Eos too. So you have like plenty of ways to like find some like Forge Tender and Caterpillar. 3 Path to Exile, 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Veil Summer. This just interacts in a way to obviously like beat other combo decks. Like Thoughtseizing your opponent, giving you an extra turn or two to go off is usually pretty good, especially then they probably can't interact all that well. Path to Exile, just 1 mana removal against like the Titan decks, and like Death Shadow is maybe not super popular, but definitely is a deck that people are playing and they play in high numbers. So Path to Exile is really good against them. Veil of Summer, also really good against the other discard decks, really good against like Jund and all those mid-rangey decks, because this just gets to stop whatever they're doing, draw you a card, and even in the control matchups, you just blank their counterspell, draw a card. For people that are still playing control in 2020. Phyrexian Revoker just names a permanent, or names a card, a non-land card that's giving you fits and things like that. Even stops the mana abilities of said things. You just can't name a land, which is obviously the difference between this and like Pithing Needle, but it's also like you can hit it off a Collected Company. You can find it once upon a time. Can't get it with Ranger, but like having 8 cards in your deck that search for a hate piece or that can find a hate piece is pretty good. Aven Sensor, Mirror Crusader. Mirror Crusader, you could just literally beat through your opponent, putting counters on this thing naturally, making it a 3/3 or a 4/4, and having it hit for 8 and beating most everything in combat is pretty good. Aven Mind Sensor, I believe, is strictly for the Titan decks to stop them from searching the library a bunch with their Titan, making a ton of Field of the Dead tokens, or even just stopping them from getting Field of the Dead altogether. And it makes it a lot harder for them to make those zombies when they're having to hit their land drops naturally, and they're getting beat down the air with this flyer. And you can just get them because you can force them to go all in on like a Summoner's Pact or something like that, and they have to look at the top 4 cards for a Titan or for a green creature, and you can get them that way. So like Mind Sensor has some cool tricks. Really fun card. Nice to see it in Modern because it was a pretty big thing when Titan was around like 5-6 years ago, probably even longer. But like with it being reprinted on my kit and things like that, it's now cheaper, and it's just a pretty cool like gotcha card as well. And that's it for Heliod combo for the Modern format. This deck is oddly good, not for the fact that you can play Heliod plus Walking Ballista and deal infinite damage to your opponent, which is, I think, that was definitely the thing people thought about when this deck came out, that we were going to need Walking Ballista banned in Pioneer, possibly in Modern, and things like that, because you can go off turn 3, turn 4. But really, what people should have been more worried about was figuring out how to delay the game until you can actually win with your combo, which obviously playing Spike Feeder, which being a 3 mana card, and Collected Company being legal in the Modern format, just sets you up really nicely. Dig 6 cards to find like your 2 combo pieces to gain infinite life. And again, with a lot of the decks in the format, they just kind of have to concede to infinite life because they cannot beat it, even though you technically didn't beat them. You beat them because they'll never win the game. They're just going to have to hope that you deck out, which obviously is a concern when playing this deck, because you are just kind of like trying to card advantage yourself into like Spike Feeder or Walking Ballista plus Heliod and things like that. So definitely a case where you could just be too far ahead of your opponent on cards, and then as long as they can stop you from getting back Ballista or Eternal Witnessing to get back Ballista, there's a way that you could lose the game that way. But a lot of the time, people just kind of concede to infinite life because they think they can't beat it. They don't think about the natural decking plan because of how bad it could be for them if they're not able to, and things like that. So definitely a concern when you play this deck is that if you gain infinite life, you better hope that you can also try to resolve Walking Ballista and things like that to try to just kill them eventually if they do not concede infinite life. But a lot of players do, and that sometimes is good enough. But anyway, that's going to do it for Heliod Company. Deck's pretty sweet. It does something pretty powerful, and it does something that most decks have a hard time hard time beating, and especially if they don't interact well, you can just kind of either win the game at your leisure, or they'll just concede and you get to move on to games 2 and 3. Hopefully not game 3, but at least game 2. So that's going to do it for me. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel to find more modern videos, find more Pioneer and Standard videos as well, discussing over some Magic Theory type stuff, and some like odd weeks whenever something just comes out and hits me. I appreciate you guys for watching the video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.